during the MBA, in the summer, we get 4 months to explore what we want to do next. You could either approach that 4 months as, what shall I do that will set me up for a full-time career, or what is just an immediate next step? And for that, we have different options. And Cyril chose the internship way to go. And so he will take us through his internship experience.
Thank you, Bhavana. So for me, internship experience was what I wanted. So I had the opportunity of working with BC Hydro. So it's a crown corporation in BC here, Vancouver. It employs over 7,000 employees, and it's one of the biggest spenders in the utilities industry. So for me, I had, I went through what's it called now, application for the job. I started in January, had my first and second interview in February while I was in GIE, and the final offer came in March, and internship itself started in May, and had it for 4 months from May to August. So in the period of time I was there, I worked with the supply chain category department. So the supply chain category department is one of the biggest spenders out of the $2 billion that is earmarked for spending by the corporation. Supply chain spends about 1.2 billion of it for services and products, just ensuring that the lights are being kept on in the province. So part of my key deliverables in the time I was there was working on some contract extension for some of the suppliers in the environmental space. And I must say, getting into there, I had a finance background. I have a master's degree in environmental science. So all of these things counted as part of the leverage for me to be chosen for this role. And I worked with the environmental science team. And part of the contract I worked on was ensuring that we had a contract in place for 16 vendors for environmental remediation and cleanup for where we had all of our activities ongoing. So also leveraging my background in the environmental sector, I also worked with the fuel and oil category management team. So what we're trying to do was to see how we can transition from petrol diesel to renewables. So it's part of the BC clean energy mandates that by 2030, we should have about 80% reduction in petrol diesel. And part of that strategy was being driven by BC Hydro being a crown corporation. So I helped in crafting that framework, coming up with the fuel and oil category on how we can transition from petrol diesel to renewable oil, renewable fuel. And also the third deliverable that I had in the course of working there was, the purchase order system. We had what we call the generator sites. There are some areas within the province that are not powered by the hydroelectricity. It's more of generators. So you have to ensure that you have suppliers who are supplying diesel in all those remote areas. And the challenge there was that there was no overview, a holistic view of what is being bought and what is being sold. So part of my project was ensuring that all of the contract owners and managers had an end-to-end view of how much oil is being bought, how much fuel is being bought, at what time, when are the contracts expiring, such that at every point in time, there's no gap, because that was being experienced. So those were my 3 key deliverables in the course of the time I worked at BC Hydro. I must say that my experience in finance and being a product manager helped a lot, even though it was a supply chain field. And it was really a good one for me. And in all of this, we might say it was all work and no play. So it wasn't just work alone. We also had a good time there. So this is me. The first 3 top pictures you can see there were a visit to the State Fall dam. So this was one of the dams that was built in the 1900s. So you can see the generation turbines there. So it was more like a trip down the memory lane. There you can also see the Tesla coil, which shows how electricity was being generated. So that was one of the places I visited. Then the second place, which is the pictures below, those are the main materials. So here you have all of the materials being stored, your armored cables, your bucket trucks. Just think of it, whatever material that you need in, either replacing down the power line or bringing on new projects, all of it was here. So I had an opportunity to go in there. So it was more like visiting your stakeholders. You're in the corporate office, building up strategy on how to, solve an interface with some of your customers. So that was during the summer, having a think at supply chain in the utilities industry. These were two different areas for me, coming from the finance background and going to supply chain. Was do I want to continue supply chain or do I want to continue in finance? But I must say it was a good one. So I will hand it over to Jeff to also share his experience during the summer.
Thanks a lot, Cyril.
Hey, Jeff, just before you get going, Cyril, you mentioned one thing, and I just want everyone to be clear. You talked about GIE and the interview process. Can you just explain a little bit more? GIE being global immersion, where you were at the time, how you juggled with that?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Sean. So the GIE is the Global Immersion Experience. You have the opportunity of working with international clients. So at the time, I had the opportunity of working in Madrid. I worked with the city of Madrid, which we had the mandate of coming up with strategies for how to move the city forward. So I was in Madrid. I had a couple of interviews while I was doing the GIE program. So and again, you have to consider the different time zones. So being in Madrid, almost 9 hours ahead of Vancouver, and having to handle, both the client work that you're doing and also trying to, get an internship posting. It was quite a stretch, but I must say it was something that, it's a memory that I'll always cherish. It was high pressure, but it was worth it, I must say.
Yeah, I think we can all speak super highly on our GIE experience. I know myself, Sean, and Bhavana, we were all in Cape Town as well. And Cyril, I just wanted to say, I don't think I have any photos that look as cool on the job as you do in that one standing with those turbines. So you got me beat there. All right, so myself, I did the internship as well. I went to Toronto for my internship, and it was at a consulting firm called Quinn+Partners. They specialize in sustainability consulting. And you can see there's the city of Toronto. There's a lot of smoke in Toronto this summer due to wildfires, but it made for some pretty skies. So that's a photo I took when I was there. And then the photo on the right, we had a 3-day offsite, and it's something that the firm does every year. So they bring in people from all their offices, and we went to a site in Northern Ontario. We were on a lake. This is us. We were doing an eco tour on one of the islands there. We were learning from some of the Indigenous people from the community, and learning about the geology, the uniqueness of that geology, and just how warming lake temperatures in the Great Lakes is having a pretty detrimental effect on the fishing industry there and the other wildlife components, and how the ice isn't even forming, whereas 40 years ago, every single year, it would completely cover these areas of the Great Lakes, and now it's one in every several years that it actually freezes over. So just witnessing climate change firsthand was pretty powerful, especially in an industry like that. So this was my route. So I had I submitted my application, and then it was a 4-round interview from March to April. And then I was given my offer in April, and I began in beginning of May. So after the end of P5, or P4, I guess it would be, I flew to Toronto, and then I had a few days to get settled in before starting my work there. And so the company is, as I mentioned, it's a management consulting firm specializing in ESG, sustainable finance, as well as impact investing. And then also greenhouse gas emissions accounting. So tallying up the greenhouse gas emissions of many firms, including financial institutions. And you might not think right away that companies like banks have a large carbon footprint, but if you look at their scope 3 emissions, so their financed emissions, basically all the emissions of all the companies they invest in, these greenhouse gas emissions can be extremely massive. I also worked with private equity firms and developed ESG scoring tools for their portfolio companies. And then we also developed plans to improve their ESG of these portfolio companies. And it was quite rewarding because sometimes PE firms will they'll buy a company and just really focus on the margins, really squeezing it down, just trying to get the most profitability. But these PE firms that are looking for ESG, they're looking for this long-term sustainable growth, which is actually in line with what these portfolio companies are going for as well. So it's mutually beneficial to both the owner of the company as well as the management teams, which was really good to see and work with. I also did climate disclosures of the 40 highest emitted companies on the Toronto Stock Exchange across multiple criteria. And this was for institutional investors, specifically something called stewardship, which is large investors will invest in a company and they can use that influence and that power of their investment to try and drive some of their own initiatives. And these institutional investors were looking to drive a climate initiative. So working with high emitting companies to try and curb their emissions and develop a path towards sustainability. I also did the verification of energy, water, waste, and greenhouse gas emissions for a bunch of real estate asset owners. So companies that own hundreds, if not thousands of properties all over the world, dealing with the property managers of each property and then looking through their waste bills, their electricity bills, their water bills, and then just tallying up all that information and then putting it into a reporting framework. I did PRI scoring, which is the principle of responsible investment, which is, again, it's another framework that large investors use, and it's a way of scoring how socially responsible and environmentally responsible their investments are, and then they can look at improving that year over year. And then finally, I work with pension funds to evaluate the performance, generally the social and environmental performance of certain impact ventures. So I worked with some university pension funds that were looking to build an impact portfolio. And so I was doing some of the screening to help them choose some of the companies who would fall under that impact criteria. So that was my experience. I had a wonderful time, and I'll be returning there in February to work full time. So that wraps up the internship portion of the two, and Sean will take us away onto the other fun aspects of entrepreneurship.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. So you have the option, right? Bhavana touched on, there's an industry project, and the industry project is, hey, I want to dive into, let's say, commercial real estate market in downtown Vancouver. And you dive deep and you create a very in-depth report. Now, the other project is the entrepreneurial project. So myself, I had worked for hotels for 11 years before the MBA, and I don't know what I want to do with myself. And I'm applying to internships in March, and then I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want this traditional internship. And at the same time, there was a group of classmates that were, had this special sense about them, and they were all interested in pursuing more of an entrepreneurial project. And so I decided at the end of April, you know what, maybe it was even a little bit the middle of April, I'm not going after a traditional internship. I am going to pursue something entrepreneurial. Never done it in my life, but I'm intrigued. And so there was 5 of us, and we formed a team, and it all started with problem ideation. What are we passionate about? And it was a mixture of climate change. And hey, one of us was a level 4 sommelier, so let's do something in the grape growing world. Let's look at the co-packing industry in Vancouver. And so we narrowed down our problems, and then we started talking to people and trying to validate, okay, is this a real problem or not? And we then pivoted, and we did more research, and then we probably pivoted again, and we did more research. And throughout this whole process, we had a faculty member that was assigned to us, kind of guiding us along the way. And one thing that surprised me coming into UBC was I never really understood how powerful the infrastructure and network of entrepreneurialism, entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it, is at UBC. And it's something that really has blown me away. You have an intro to entrepreneurial class in your second term. You then can take entrepreneurial finance. It is a track that you can go down. There, right now, we are in growing and exiting at a venture. It's so amazing learning about young companies and how they grow. And what we eventually settled on at first was this problem of, given climate change, grape growers are facing devastating losses due to the effects of hail and frost damage. How can we help mitigate these losses? Now that's where we started. That certainly wasn't where we ended. And our company was originally named Canopy. And then we eventually pivoted to InVinea Solutions. On a side note, for this summer, with the Entrepreneurial Project, you're creating your own schedule. So my partner and I, we'd always wanted a puppy. And that is our puppy Hazel in the bottom right corner. And having a puppy is a very intense thing, but the timing worked well because I knew I was working from home. And so Jeff, continue on, please. With UBC's campus as well, you have the Point Grey campus, and you also have the Robson Square campus. So we actually split our time with our meetings between the actual UBC campus and then utilizing some of the breakout rooms at the downtown campus. So it helped with our commute. It changed things up. And it was really nice to be able to use both assets. Now, what did we really do? We dove into this whole startup network. So that's a picture of the 5 of us. Startup Canada was an event that was hosted at UBC, speaking to amazing speakers, people, a pitching competition. That was just one event. There are other events. There was Startup Week in Vancouver, where there was just a multitude of events where you're just meeting other entrepreneurs and you're speaking to these people that grew companies and hearing from experts. And so it was so fun for me being like, wow, I'm not just at work. I'm going and I'm surrounding myself with all these people that are passionate about making a difference and solving problems. The people that we spoke to. So one of our highlights was, yes, the team went to the wine growing region in BC. We spoke to an angel investor who had come and spoken at our entrepreneurial finance class, our introduction to entrepreneurial class. And we actually spoke to this investor, this guy that invests hundreds of thousands of dollars in companies, and he tore our company apart. So valuable, the insight that we gained from him. We went to other experts because we learned to pivot, right? We started with hail and frost. We learned it wasn't that big of a problem. We then thought, let's do yield prediction. Okay, no, let's do pest and disease. We spoke to leading professors at Cornell University, Washington State University. And we certainly enjoyed some wine. And we learned so much about the whole new industry. And so in this bottom left is a cap table. And this was a very, very real experience. There's 5 of us in a room. There's actually was 6 of us at the time. And we all had to start with, okay, how much cash are we willing to commute and put into this venture ourselves? Okay, so we did that. And then we all went around the table and we said, well, how much of this company do we think we want? And it took 2 conversations. The first one, we were at a total of 135%. Well, how are you splitting up 135% of a company? That's not going to work. And then eventually the second one, we came to an agreement. And it was so real. And it gave me so much insight into how to better prepare when potentially I am in an entrepreneurial project and in a venture where this conversation means my future. And so, well, what did I learn? Other than learning so much about the grape growing industry and farmers and the problems they face and the economics behind it, I learned the understanding of my own financial position. Coming out of school with loans, am I ready to go work for a venture and get paid a $0 salary? I'm not. Now, could I go and work for an early stage company where maybe there is a salary? Potentially, but it made me really understand my own financial position. At the same time, our expertise lied on we were a diverse group. So myself, hospitality finance, we had a government specialist from the healthcare industry. We had a level 4 sommelier wine buyer. We had another engineer, and then we had Bhavana, our food scientist. And so it was a very diverse group, but none of us really knew what it was like to grow a grape. And so not having that expertise made it difficult for us. I also learned, hey, everyone thinks before school, I thought entrepreneurship was all about you come up with that amazing idea and you grow it to a unicorn status and you make all this money. No, it's all about understanding what the problem is that you are solving and finding that product market fit, validating that people will pay for your product. We jumped to solutions. We didn't quite understand the problems as in-depthly as we should. And lastly, what I learned as well, I like working with people and on a team. Remote work really isn't for me. Maybe a hybrid structure, but I want to be surrounded by people in an office. And so another amazing option, that was me. Let's hand it over to Bhavana, who took a similar but different entrepreneurial route as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. And I learned a lot from listening to the 3 of you. I I know I worked closely with Sean on one of the projects, but Jeff and Cyril, I had no idea what your journey was about, and how you've sort of made an impact in those organizations. And Jeff, I couldn't even understand some of your complex consulting things. So I'm really glad that we're friends and I can pick your brain on those things. I decided that maybe going into an organization for the summer was not for me. I thought I have two options. I can be an entrepreneur for 0 months or at least 4 months. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do entrepreneurship for at least 4 months because UBC is such a safe space and I can take this risk, and it's lower stakes than it would be now, for example, while I'm graduating, right? So I started my own consulting firm as a food scientist. So a food engineering, food science consulting firm. I got my first client, and my first client was actually from UBC's, one of the UBC's classes that I took, Sauder's classes, corporate strategy class. We had a guest professor come in, and I actually ended up securing him as a client. He wanted to start a podcast. So I helped him develop a business plan for the podcast. It had nothing to do with science, food science, but I guess that's what entrepreneurship is about. It's very unpredictable. And I went with the flow, and then I promoted myself as a food scientist through the creator economy. That was what my project was called, on exploring entrepreneurship in a creator economy. So I made some posts about my skills. I developed a website. I promoted myself. And guess what? I got a gig, which was an ESG gig, something that, again, Jeff was talking about. There's a lot of money being, kind of funneled into ESG projects, which could look like a food science workshop for kids in a real estate company. So Quadreal Property is a real estate company, and they hired me as part of their social, initiative to teach children about science. And I did that through liquid nitrogen and giving out ice creams and dancing. And the best part about all that was I had my first paycheck as an entrepreneur. Actually, I'll get emotional about this because I've worked in organizations all my life or not since I was a baby, but for 10 years of my career, I've worked in organizations. And Jeff, if you want to go to the next slide, I can show you that here's Bhav in a laboratory, just dreaming about being an entrepreneur. Of course, that's not all I did. I did a lot of work in the laboratory, and I knew that maybe my personality maybe belonged more in the business side of things. I'm very extroverted. So when the job market was tough before in 2020, 2021, you guys have all been there. Probably some of the reason why you are now applying to the MBA or the MBAN or the MM. So I applied for the MBA. That's a snippet from my video essay, probably where a lot of you are right now, thinking of making video essays for your colleges. Again, sorry, being a little bit emotional. And then the MBA just kind of wasn't this vacuum. It was just so amazing. Before I knew it, I was like networking, making amazing friends, like all of my fellow panelists. And I was career strategizing with Ryan, who's also on this call, our career strategist. Utilize all of those resources and do what you want to, whatever that internship looks like, whether it looks like how Cyril said it or Jeff said it or Sean or myself. How many ways you can approach your summer, as many ways as there are people in that program. It's your personal journey. And this was my personal journey. I met my business partner, Brad, there in a class, and now we're like such good business partners. I've had an amazing time working with him. But I'm also trying to see, is this entrepreneurship going to work out for me? Is this the last month that I'm going to be an entrepreneur? It's an individual journey. I've actually asked my mom to be on this call. I've made many of these panels before, but this one was special for me because It's been a journey for me to get here, financial stability or instability, and going through it. So my last slide is just a photo of my summer, lots of networking opportunities, website building, going to wineries, making a presentation deck for my clients, launching a small CBD company in India, which was called Ganj. And then I also gave a small talk in my undergrad university in Bangalore about entrepreneurship. Honestly, all of this didn't happen all over just that summer. It's been leading up to it, but this UBC SORDER experience just enabled me to do that. And yeah, that's me. I'm going to take a breath because I think this has been an amazing experience. And it was also just lovely hearing my classmates share their experience. And I want to sort of bring us all back to where you guys were at the beginning of this presentation. You were thinking you had nervousness, there was competitiveness, etc. But I hope that you can see that there's going to be some support from UBC. And there are going to be times where we're overwhelmed. There will be positions offered. I actually rejected an internship opportunity to commit to entrepreneurship. So there are offers, that things are going to come up. It's about how you handle it, and you do you, and you're going to do really good. So with that, my next slide is, how are you feeling right now? Please put that in the chat. With that, we are ready to take some questions for the next 20 minutes or so.
Thanks a lot, Bhavna. Wow, that was so good. I got emotional from your emotion. And those photos are terrific. Yeah, so now is the time. As Bhavna said, some of you were feeling a bit nervous beforehand, worried about competition. But as she said, SORDER is here to support you, and we're here right now to support you as well. So feel free to turn on your cameras, ask some questions. I think the best way is to put your hand up on Zoom, and then we'll call your name, and then you can ask your question. Or if you feel more comfortable, put it in the chat. But yeah, we'd love to see everyone's faces. I know it might be early or late for some of you, but still it'd be great to look at the future of the master's programs here at SORDER.
And I see some of you have from our coffee chat. So hi there, you guys know who you are. Don't want to call you out. Actually, I will call you out, Chimobi. I had you in mind. So let's go with you first.
Hi, Bhavna. It's such a great pleasure. If I was very excited when I saw you on my screen, so I wanted to give a shout out, but sure, not started. Bhavna, very very solid experience. Like Sean said, I felt the emotions you depicted when you spoke. Lots of experiences you've had. Food sciences, dancing, entrepreneurship, rejecting a gig, getting your first paycheck, and I hope the money was very big. But my question is to Jeff. Jeff, you interned in consulting, so I want to know, did you have any prior career experience in consulting? Was it a pivot for you, or you were just like a career accelerator? I just wanted to know. And some of all the things you did, high-end, fantastic things. So I wanted to know how did you come about doing those things? Like, were there tasks that were assigned to you and you were told, oh, hey, Jeff, maybe could you work on this? Could you get all this data and analyze and share? Or, I just wanted to know what that experience was, in consulting, because it's really something I am looking to pivot to.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So yeah, my background was in aerospace engineering. So it was my first experience with consulting, was this internship. And prior to the MBA, I had no experience in consulting at all. I actually worked for a company that we measured our measures of success by how much jet fuel we were burning. And now I'm working at a sustainability company trying to call out big corporations for their emissions. So it was quite a transition for me. In terms of the internship, yeah, it was a very busy time when I started at the company. So I was doing a lot of things just to help them out at the beginning. And then these were some of the tasks I was assigned to. And then as I was working on something, I kind of dove into it further and was able to further develop some of the work I was doing. So yeah, I got exposure to a broad range of different subjects. And yeah, it was quite packed for a 3-month internship. But really, it was the company I was working for. It was the firm that they already had these projects on the go, and I was there. And I was able to leverage some of my past work experience in some client-facing roles, albeit in engineering, but still I was able to prove, I guess, my diligence early on, and then they were able to trust me with more work. But yeah, I had a really good time. It was a bit sad being away from Vancouver because there was a lot going on with my classmates, but there were a few of us in Toronto as well through the MBA, and we got together a few times as well and met up. So yeah, I had overall a very positive experience.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. MK, what's on your mind?
Hi, my name is Mo. I have a quick question to actually you, Sean. Thank you for asking me. There was a quick mention in your talk about commercial real estate out here in Vancouver. And I know it wasn't the main topic of your discussion, but I am planning to join the commercial real estate market after I finish my program in Sutter School. I'm wondering what would be the best way to go about it. I am in the market right now as a builder, and I'm planning to join it as a real estate developer. How would you recommend I do this?
Ooh, that is a fun question. In a recent coffee chat that I had with an alum, one of the best things that they said to me was pick one of the organizations that focuses on the industry that you want to be in. So at the time, I had been thinking about the Urban Land Institute. And okay, great. Am I going to join that and start to network my way around and go to those type of events? And it's still on the top of my mind if I want to pivot into the real estate market. I think that with our program at school, so there's 2 real estate courses that are offered. And right now I'm in the real estate finance class. Utilizing your professors to potentially leverage you into networking can also be a great way to get into it. But I think what I can relate to with my summer entrepreneurship project was attending those startup events in the city outside of UBC was where I met a whole bunch of people. And so for you, are you currently in Vancouver?
I am, yes.
Cool. So start to look online and look at the major real estate associations and say, okay, when is there a chat, whether it's a webinar, whether it's something in person, and start to attend those and speak to one person, speak to 2 people, start to develop those connections, because that's really what will help you. If you're already on one side of the real estate industry, think about your own network right now and who potentially has those connections as well. And I think that really it's just about putting yourself out there. I'm not someone that wants to go talk to 1,000 people. I can tell you that right now. I would rather, and it was the same individual at this coffee chat that was like, I speak to one person and I say, can you introduce me to 3 more? Okay, cool. And those introductions, it's that initial breakthrough that can be the challenge. But once you have that breakthrough and someone's on your side, that's then where that introduction is going to help speed up that process. And when you look at Canada as a whole, you're familiar with real estate here. It is one of the big industries. Vancouver has a housing shortage, commercial real estate downtown. There was an event last week that was hosted through school where 3 individuals spoke about what is the current state and the future of commercial real estate in Vancouver. And so it's all about staying also attuned to what events pop up, because Sutter will put things on your radar. And that's a beautiful thing. That was through Cool, our career website, where, hey, they posted, this is what's happening. Okay, great. Go ahead and attend it. So I hope
Perfect.
that kind of answers, gives you some direction.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. Fantastic. I will look into Cool because I haven't done this already, and I will because I haven't started the program yet. It starts in January. That's awesome. Thanks, John.
Yeah, of course. Let's see, Shriti, what is on your mind?
Hi, my question maybe Jeff or Cyril can take it up. So I wanted to know how you decide what domain you want to focus on when you like start applying for internships. If it is like based on what your prior experiences or what your areas of interests are like.
Okay, maybe I could
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
take up. Yeah. So for me, the whole essence of the MBA was for me to pivot from finance and try something new. So when BC Hydro came, we had an employee breakfast sometimes in January. So that's when I got interested. I was like, okay, this supply chain, my skills as a product manager, kind of relevant to what you would do as a category manager. So I was like, okay, let me give it a try and see how it goes. And I was surprised when I got the offer. I had a conversation with the hiring manager to ask her, so what was it in me that you saw and that brought me, on board? And she said, well, one, you have a project management certification. We needed that. You had a master's degree in environmental science. We needed that. You have 10 years as a finance person. So you have a business acumen. So we needed that. So with all of that, so like that was why I needed you on board. So it all boils down to one, for your internship, are you trying to pivot to another industry? That's an opportunity for you to, check out the industry and see, is it something you like? Is it a place, a career you like to build? So that gives you the opportunity compared to when you get something full-time, you are neck deep in it and you find out, oh, I really don't like this. Then it's so sad to go back. So the internship gives you the opportunity to just, go around, you're able to, just test and see, and you're able to make up your mind so that when you're done with the MBA program, you really know where you want to go to.
Yeah, hi. So first of all, I wanted to say thanks to all four of you for sharing your experience about internship and entrepreneurship in detail, and it was very helpful. So my question was that we all know that COVID pandemic created some really tough times, not only in Canada, but all over the world. And I'm sure that searching or finding a job or internship at that point in time would have been very, very difficult. So I wanted to know, like, how's the current scenario in Canada? Is it comparatively easier to find jobs or internships, or it is still very, very difficult?
I think I can jump on that one. I think it's all relative. I know for our cohort, I believe everyone or almost everyone who's looking for an internship was able to find one at the end. There were some tougher weeks where it was looking a little bit bleak. Maybe there weren't enough positions for the amount of students, or just the positions available weren't of interest to students. But there was a big push of jobs of job postings in April and May. And as I said, everyone who was looking for an internship was able to get one. I think in terms of the Canadian job market, I think things are fairly good right now. I think the last 2 years have been a little bit unstable, but I think there's optimism as far as I'm concerned. I don't know, Cyril, what you saw in your internship approach?
Yeah, I think for the internship, if you remember what Mary says about Vancouver jobs are more just in time. So as soon as the employer needs the post, and where there are some certain employers like the big fours, they have their own seasons where they are recruiting. So it's all about you keying into those seasons. I would say for now, there's a lot of job posting. It's about you positioning yourself, your experience, your skill area, your strength area, and getting what you want. So, and even looking at what the economy is right now, I mean, I think the last communication from the Bank of Canada was about, how the labor market is beginning to, there's a positive sign on it and things are getting better. There's been a hold on the interest rates. All of these are signals to show you that, things are beginning to revert to normal. So I would say for now, things are getting better. It's just for you to ensure you have your resume, have all the things that you need, do the networking, which is very important. Yes, most of the jobs that you will get, it will be posted out there. But if you're networking with the hiring manager, your chances of getting one is higher compared to just, the general application. These are the things you also learn. And that's why we have Ryan on the call also, things you will learn when you join the program.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Cyril, for the answer. It's much more clear now. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Muhammad, from the chat here, you are curious about finance and thinking Toronto is where it's at. Well, here's my insight to that. So yes, Toronto in North America, I believe, is the second largest financial hub behind New York City. So yes, finance is definitely shaking and moving in Toronto. But needless to say, that doesn't mean Vancouver doesn't have it. And when I think about some of our cohort, there were 4 people that entered a RBC internship program this summer. 2 of them were in Toronto, 2 of them stayed in Vancouver. And 2 of them that were in Vancouver, I believe, are now doing a rotational program in Vancouver. And so there are other financial houses in the city of Vancouver. I know of another classmate that was an engineer that now has become an investment banker, private equity. Amazing pivot. If you are thinking of, hey, I want to move somewhere and I want to go to school where I want to work, okay, cool. Maybe that's where Toronto is there. But I'm a West Coast guy. I want to live in Vancouver. I don't want to live in Toronto. Okay. What about going to school in Vancouver to maybe have a network that's more expansive, meet people on the West Coast, and then, yeah, I can head over to Toronto for work, potentially another option that you can pursue. So really, if you are very skilled and know exactly what you want to do in finance, whether it's specifically you want to focus on mergers and acquisitions, whether you want to go into risk management, you can understand that, yes, there will be just a smaller base in Vancouver. The big base is going to be in Toronto. But to say that you won't find something, I would disagree with that. Is it easier if you are more flexible to other locations? Probably. So for me, I'm contemplating finance. I don't know if I want to go into private equity, if I want to go into investment banking. I've thought about working for the big banks. I'm an American. I could move to the States and I could go to a multitude of places, but ultimately I want to live in Vancouver. So if, thinking of where you want to live isn't the most important and it's more of your career, then potentially thinking about how to set yourself up for that next transition, because moving is a pain, especially if you're moving international once and then you're moving within the country. Is it doable? Of course it is. And I will be sad. Like Jeff was from Toronto originally. He's moving back to Toronto. I'll be sad Jeff won't be here. But needless to say, I know, and he can speak to it, he's had an amazing experience and is thankful to have worked in Vancouver and gotten to taste the waters. And with our professors, I think we have such an amazing network of professors. I think one of my favorite things about this program is the financial expertise that you're learning from. Right now, we're in a portfolio management with a professor that used to run the Canada Pension Fund, used to be in charge of global investments for RBC, like extremely high player in the industry. And so looking at potentially who your professors are, that's another amazing thing, because you know how many people are in that class? 16. So our connection with that professor is so intimate versus when you do look at those larger universities when you're maybe one of 75, one of 90. What kind of connection are you going to have? And I think that's another valuable asset to consider, because those guys, they know everyone. I hope that answers your question. I see, Jeff, did you want to add anything on to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly add on to that as well. There were a lot of people who came into our program thinking they wanted to do one thing when they graduated. And because the Sauder program really exposes you to so many different facets of business, including entrepreneurship, sustainability, finance, product management, a lot of students who had an idea of what they wanted to do ended up realizing they loved something entirely different, and now they're focusing on that. So Yeah, I would go into the MBA with an open mind. If you are looking into something finance and you know you only want to do finance, then yes, possibly a school in Toronto will be more tailored to finance. But if you also think, maybe I want to see what other options are out there, what other things might pique my interest career-wise, I think coming to Vancouver, where you get a little bit of a taste of almost everything, it can be super beneficial. But yes, moving on. I think it was Kumar first. You had your hand up.
I think
Or-
Kumar, we
We'd
went through
already
Kumar.
answered. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's
Natalia.
Hello, hi everyone. Thank you. I feel like the experiences were very different. I really like that to see a bit of entrepreneurship and then working in an industry. I really like what you said last, Jeff, about sometimes we have an idea of what we want, but maybe that changed over the course of the program. So I want to ask also, like, besides classes, like what other tools and things help you realize, okay, this is something that I'm interested on, and how do you involve that with the career center? Like, how do they help you? Like, what stage they involve you in that kind of path or journey to your career searching? Because sometimes it's very different from what you start with.
Yeah, I can take that one briefly, and then everyone can add on. So, especially I think I want to take it because I felt like I was like the most confused. I'm also trying to do entrepreneurship, also trying to find jobs, also exploring internship. So I leaned heavily on our career strategist Ryan, and who was on the call, but he most likely had to go and help out another student with their career plan, right? I really leaned on them. And the way I think we're trained to look at the career center is that they're not a placement center. They don't just place you into jobs. What they help you do is understand your own strengths. So I reflected a lot on, this is what I like, this is what I don't like with my career strategist. And even now, I was telling him, oh, I don't want to apply to this job because if I apply here, maybe it'll be a full career pivot. And he asked me a question, Bhavana, do you think every job you take is going to become a career for 20 years? Do you want to always view every job that way? And that thought has just stayed with me for a whole week now. So I think that's my experience with the career center that I want to touch upon, but I'll leave the rest of the guys here to sort of chime in.
Okay. I think for me, I knew definitely when I was coming for the program that I didn't want to do finance again. I'd done finance for 10 years. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I want to move into a different industry. And when I was coming in, I had my mind fixed on one of the tracks that I was going to take, which was technology and analytics. So when I came in, I was like, that's it and nothing else. And I remember Paula telling us then, just same thing that Bhavana said, you need to keep an open mind. And when I saw the curriculum for tech and analytics and looking at where I want to go in terms of my career, where I want to be, I began to have another, mindset and discussion with myself. I had discussions with my previous line managers, people that I've worked with, just asking them what are my own areas of strength, that these are the things I want to do. These are the two tracks I'm looking at. And I remember one of my very close line manager who was the head of data analytics. And he told me point blank, if you want to go in that career, you need to immerse yourself in data analytics. And at your age now, at this level, and where you want to go, do you want to spend that amount of time? I said, hell no, I don't want to spend that amount of time. I just want to move really fast. And he said, you've had very good run being a product manager. He will advise that's what you should look at. And doing product exposes you to different types of businesses. You can either be in tech, you can be in utilities, you can be in finance, you can be anywhere. So after much soul searching and having discussions also with Ryan, then when I had my meeting with him, my very first meeting with him, that was the same thing. He asked me, so what do you want to get? What are your aspirations? What are your hopes? So what are those things? So after much digging in and having those conversations, I was able to finally settle and say, this is what I want to do. So it boils down to what you want to do at the end of the day, what makes you happy. I'll put it that way. What makes you happy, where you think you excel. So that was my own experience, moving from finance to tech analytics, now down to products.
Yeah, and I think again, and as you mentioned too, because solder is so broad in the different fields and industries it's in, the same can be said about the Career Center. They know people in all industries and they have a robust network in a bunch of different industries. So whatever industry you're interested in, I'm sure the Career Center can put you in touch with someone in that industry. So that's another asset of this program. And yeah, great question.
Thank you. Yeah, that really answers. Thank you, everyone. I'm the person who changed their mind very quickly too, so it was really good to hear.
I think we have time for one more. Shimobi, go ahead. Or yeah, okay, we can maybe squeeze in two if we're quick. Go ahead. You're on mute. You're on mute. Okay.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I said I was about to give up my question for Nilesh, but thank God you can take two. I just wanted to quickly ask, how much extent was the impact or the assistance of the Career Center, in helping students, get internship positions, even maybe before the application and all. I just wanted to know whether like some one-on-one counseling sessions, executive coachings and all. I just wanted to know the impact of the Career Management Center.
And could we also maybe hear Nilesh's question so that we can answer the two together? Nilesh, you're up.
Hello. Hello, good morning, everyone. How are you? I'm Nilesh this side. Actually, as a business student, I feel that I have interest in both finance and marketing. I feel that finance and marketing are the field and which are to go for in an individual life. So marketing is something like you present your product in such a way in the market that it reaches maximum customers. Like in airports and or big duty free areas, the companies advertise things in such a way that you are able to see it even when you are far away from it. So, what are the marketing and finance opportunities at UBC?
Okay, so yeah, Cyril, do you want to talk through the support from Career Center?
Yes, just to answer Chimomubi's question. So first and foremost, I don't know if it's Sean or Bhavana that made that comment that the Career Center is not going to place you in a job. That's not the work. So they're not going to go catch the fish and give to you. They're going to train you on how to get the fish. So that's the job. In terms of the opportunities that is being created, yes, they will create the opportunity for you in the sense that things like company info session, networking events, all of those things will be provided. I would say my internship position that I got was through the employer breakfast, which Career Center organized. That was where I had the opportunity of talking with the hiring managers in BC Hydro. So in terms of the support that will be given to you, yes, the support will be given to you to help you position yourself to potential employers. But in terms of hand holding you to an employer to say, yes, you fit in here, no, that's not going to happen. So I think that's the answer for that, Chimobi.
I think since we're wrapping it up, I'll just also touch upon Nilesh's question, whether it's marketing, finance, entrepreneurship, getting into a banking company. You have so many resources at UBC that actually the toughest thing that you'll have to do is pick and choose where your energy has to go. So if marketing is where you want to go, then that's where you will pick and then you'll focus your energies there. And I'm so sad that I missed that breakfast because it seems like a lot of people got a lot out of it. So if you get in, make sure you attend that breakfast because I definitely missed it. But that's it from my side. Do you guys want to add anything else to wrap this up? Oh, actually, sorry, one more thing. I'm adding a link to coffee chats. So if we missed you, then go to that link and schedule a coffee chat with us. That's from me.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for coming. We hope you gained something out of it. Yeah, it was great hearing the questions and seeing some faces. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good morning, evening, night, back to sleep, whatever it is for you guys.